and he's a frequent guest on the Larry Elder Show. Please welcome back to the program, Dr. Kerry B. Strom. Doctor, thank you very much for taking the time, as always. Do we have him?
I'm here.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you for taking the time, as always. I know you're really busy, Doctor. Since the last time we've talked, the World Health Organization has put out inconsistent signals about whether or not somebody who's asymptomatic can transmit the disease. They told us that was very likely. That's why we had the shutdown in the first place. And then a few days ago, Dr. Strom, as you probably know, one of the officials said, well, it is very, very rare. And then, of course, people went bat bleep because everybody was talking about the advice that they gave that was contrary to that. And then they backpedaled on that, too. So I'm not quite sure at all what the current thinking is about people who are asymptomatic.
Well, this is Dr. Van Kerkhove. I know about this. And I think what the problem was here was what asymptomatic meant. So they were using asymptomatic as opposed to pre-symptomatic. So if somebody is truly asymptomatic and they're not going to develop the disease, the risk of transmission is very, very rare. But they were using people that were pre-symptomatic. That was the right word, pre-symptomatic, not asymptomatic. So they included people who had the disease but didn't have symptoms until days later, and they were including that in asymptomatic. So those people can transmit the disease, but the people that are truly asymptomatic, and they should have been using the right word, are people that will never have the clinical disease, may carry the transmission, may carry the virus, but never develop it. And the risk of getting it from them is very, very rare. But they included pre-symptomatic into asymptomatic, and that was wrong.
So, Dr. Strom,
so that was the mix-up.
I was going to say, so what does all this mean about the directives that we had to stay home, to shut down, to slow down the spread of the disease, to not overwhelm our medical system, all the rationale that we were given for the shutdowns? Now that they've given this kind of advice about whether or not somebody can spread the disease, if they're pre-symptomatic, asymptomatic, given all of this stuff, Dr. Strom, it sounds to me like your initial instinct, which was not to shut down, has proven to be correct.
Yes, but you don't know that at the beginning. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you're learning this retrospectively, okay? And all the stuff is coming out because, when a new disease comes out, we just don't know how it's going to behave. So, yeah, okay, looking back, and maybe that was wrong. Maybe it was wrong. But how did we know? How do we know if somebody carries the virus that they're not going to develop the disease? I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. So how do you know that? So, I mean, I don't know the right answer to this. I mean, if we had all this information from the get-go, maybe we would not have been as aggressive with shutting down everything. But we just didn't know. Now we're looking back, well, probably didn't have to do as much.
Dr. Strom, I just did a video about the Hong Kong flu of 1968. And if you look at the number of people who contracted it and died and adjusted for population, it was about 150,000 Americans. That's about 38,000 fewer deaths than we have so far with the current coronavirus. And we didn't shut down the government. I don't even remember it. I was 16 years old. I don't remember anybody talking about it at the time.
Okay, point well taken. Let's just look at the numbers now. So since the May 16th, okay, we're having new cases, clearly. And, okay, businesses are opening up and people are getting more liberal. They're not as worried about transmission. But in the last week, I mean, there's going to be 2 million cases, 29,000 deaths in the last week. 709 new deaths. I was wrong, 29,000 new cases. And last weekend was the highest daily total since May 16th, okay? But if somebody gets a disease, is that a death sentence? Probably not. We see the mortality is probably less than we thought. So transmission is going to happen, and maybe we do want that because I told you last time I was on about herd immunity. You get 50 to 70% of the population infected, people are going to become immune, and we may need that herd immunity if we don't get a vaccination within the next, year? We hope by year end. So, yes, there are new cases. Does it warrant a complete shutdown? Probably not, and there's going to be some bad outcomes. But, yes, absolutely true. Probably overestimated at the beginning. And probably it's not a death sentence, but you hear bad cases, and people get fearful of that.
Dr. Strom,
look at the Memorial Day weekend. There was a pop in cases. Okay, there are more cases being diagnosed, but the real question is it because we're testing more? You know, if you're testing more people, you're going to get more positive results. So out of all people tested, probably less than 4% are positive. And then we had the protests, and we had the Memorial Day weekend, holiday weekend. So is this exposure and liberalizing your social distancing making it worse? Possibly, but I will caution you. There are more hospitalizations than in the past as well. So some of these positive tests are really pretty serious diseases. So it's still to be determined. But I would think that people are going to decide what they want to do themselves. I mean, we really don't know because it's brand new. But it's not as bad as we thought. And I said that at the beginning. I didn't think it was going to be as bad as we thought. We're learning now that touching surfaces. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago.
Let's pick that up on the other side, Dr. Strom. Dr. Strom is my guest, 888-971-SAG. Give us a call about your concerns about the coronavirus, 888-971-SAGE.